Hi everyone, welcome in our channel. Today we're going to talk about the main differences between an express courier and a postal courier. Before we go ahead, remember to subscribe to our channel, leave a like and a comment for the video if you enjoyed it. Moving forward with our topic, today we're going to discuss about the main differences between an express courier and a postal courier. So, in a few words, the service offered is pretty much the same. At the end of the day, they both ship internationally and they both ship locally. So they deliver parcels all over the world. The difference stands in the level of service that they offer. Let me give you an example. When you pack the orders and you need to let them pick up, most likely a postal courier will not come to pick up to your warehouse. You will need to deliver to either the post office or their local hub. For express couriers, they generally have included in the price some pickups that they can offer to your warehouse. Of course, if you need additional pickups over the day, you can still pay for it, but at least you have a service offered. However, postal couriers that really don't offer that service, most of the times, like 95% of the times, they're not going to come to pick it up, so you can't even pay for it and have the service, for example. Then we have transit times. So another example can be that with postal couriers, they generally follow the postal channels. So for example, you use Posta Italiana in Italy, so it would be Posta Italiana that will hand it over to, Singapore Post, the parcel, but between Posta Italiana and Singapore Post, there may not be, let's say, a direct flight to Singapore. And therefore it goes through different postal channels, and that's why it takes longer sometimes. And most of the times I would say it's maybe 15 days or 20 days, it really depends, of course, on the premium that you pay. If you pay a little bit more, then transit time can be shortened. They also offer some speed post, like some offers that are a little bit faster, but they are way more expensive, and at that point you should consider an express courier instead. For the express courier, transit times can vary. It really depends, especially now during COVID. Generally, there are express couriers that can offer 1 to 2 days deliveries. And believe me, it can be done. However, now with COVID, there are less flights, so it may be extended to 5 to 6 days, especially in big countries like Australia. We all know that the main market is US, so more flights are going to the US in any case, but Australia is very diversified, it's very big, so it may take more than 5 days or 3 days, to deliver there, even if it's an express courier. And same story, same rules for postal couriers, it may take more than 14 days, even 20 sometimes. Let's don't even think about Brazil or South America, even worse. So let's always think about the logic behind the movement of goods. You start from Italy, for example, so what do? Generally, when you take a flight and you want to fly from Italy to Brazil, is there any direct flight? No chance. Most likely you're going to have to take either 2 or 3 planes to go to Brazil. Same story from Hong Kong, there's no direct flight, so you need to stop in the US and then maybe take another flight and then maybe take another flight. So 2 to 3 flights at least. And that's the same journey that a parcel follows, basically. So think about yourself, what you would need to do if you need to go from Italy to Brazil. Same story, even if express couriers generally have their own fleet. Have you ever seen like FedEx planes or UPS planes in the airport? Any airport, let's say big airport in your country, should have at least the hub of either DHL or UPS or FedEx. They have their own planes, right? They're all branded, and that plane takes let's say 1 to 2 days to fly to the US locally and then take another route and so on. So that's the same when you take a flight from your home country and you go to any destination. Sometimes you take 2 flights instead of just having 1 direct flight. So it really depends. It depends on the most common routes and so on. But therefore, having an express option is way easier, and of course it's more costly because they don't take cargo flights or passenger flights. They have their own fleet. Of course, there may be couriers that use other flights, like even commercial flights sometimes. It really depends also on the type of goods. So, but the main difference is that the reason why the transit times are faster is because they don't really follow a postal route, right? They have their own fleet at the end of the day. Let's go by that thought. And compared to postal couriers that have instead to follow the postal channels. So let's recap. Flexibility for the pickup, transit times. having or not their own fleet of airplanes that can fly all over the world. Then another difference can be the claims. For example, with postal services, you can claim that much back. If the parcel is lost in transit, it's lost in transit. They're gonna give you maybe something like the shipping fee back, or 10% of the value, or the value unless it's below $50 or something like that. So not really flexible unless you buy insurance, but not really sure if you can actually buy insurance, up to which level you can buy insurance with postal services. But with express options, generally it's at least $100. So if your product is worth $50, you declare $50 or $60 for that specific parcel as a declared value, then you're gonna get those money back. If it's more than $100, generally it really depends on the policy of each courier, but you can still buy insurance and get all the money back. So that's a service that they offer. Of course, there's like a customer support ready there for you. So compared to postal services, you may go to the post office or call the hotline, but for express options, they have live chat, emails. They're very fast because you pay a very high premium, right, to ship with express courier. So most likely even the customer service is faster, and it's easier for them also to find information from one distribution center to another. While for the post, it's different because they will need to contact all the different post offices that they've been in touch with. For example, if I ship a parcel from Italy to Singapore and it transit from Austria, then I'll need to check the distribution centers in Italy, so where they collected all the goods to then ship it to Austria, and then all the distributors and all the hubs in Austria before they ship it to Singapore, and then eventually also contact the Singapore distributors, So it's quite a lot of work and it takes time because there are multiple parties involved. While if you use an express courier, generally everything is centralized, their system, everything is visible, they can check pretty fast with all the different countries, let's say express customer support and so on, rather than waiting all the time for like someone else just picking up the phone or your email in another country that is not part of your logistic network, right? Then another difference is the capacity. So while with express options, you can generally ship whatever you want in a way, in terms of weight, but also product, they should have always a solution ready for you most of the times. But with postal services, generally is, let's say for business solutions, it's up to 2 kilograms for international shipments, or like to 10 maximum, it really depends. You can really ship like 50 kilograms of worth of goods, right? So you go for an express courier or for a forwarder in that case. However, express couriers generally are used for way bigger parcels because postal carriers, they have a limitation in terms of weight that you can ship, but they also have a limitation of dimensions. Like you have a maximum dimension that the package can have when you ship it internationally, like less than a meter, or the sum of all the sides and the dimension needs to be lower than X amount of centimeters, for example, and so on. So in that case, you have a limitation. If you go over that limit, then it's going to be rejected. You need to print another label, repack it, and so on. While with express options, no matter what you do, I mean, they're going to charge you more at the end of the day, but they still allow you to ship. Of course, express couriers are generally, let's say, convenient up to a certain weight, for example 50 or 60 kilograms. After that, generally once you reach the 100 kilograms or 80 kilograms, you should go for a forwarder because it's way more convenient. But still on capacity, it's true that an express courier gives you more flexibility in terms of dimensions of the box, the weight of the box, 10, 15, 20 kilograms. That's true. They have their own limitation as well. For example, you don't pay additional fees unless it's less than a meter. For example, each side of the box or the pallet is less than a meter. If you ship a pallet, you have a surcharge. Of course, they have their own limitations, but in a way they can be waived as long as you pay for the difference, in a few words. But capacity-wise, generally, express courier used to have more, let's say, constraints when it comes to peak seasons, and have like that's the space that they have in the plane, every night taking the flight to the US, for example. That's pretty much the space that they have. So sometimes it may be that they may reject more than, I don't know, X amount of orders per day or per week for each customer, while postal carriers pretty much they're gonna accept it, but of course it's gonna get delayed because it's gonna get on the first available flight, in a few words. While express options, they inform you and they tell, okay, we can't ship it, so it's gonna get delayed or not pick it up at all, and so on. So slightly different. Just make sure that when you choose which one to use, you're aware of the capacity, not only in terms of what's my limitation for the box, the dimensions of the box and the weight. You also have an understanding of what's going to happen if you have too many orders. Are you going to pick up from my warehouse? Are you not going to ship it? It's going to get on the next plane? What's the backup plan in case you reach the maximum output or capacity for that specific courier? Then another big difference is the way they charge. So postal services, except if you choose speed post or something like that, they should charge you only actual weight. But if you do use an express courier, generally it's whichever is higher between actual weight and volumetric weight. So there's a video also where I explain the difference between actual weight and volumetric weight. I will leave it to you in the description or in the comments. You can check it out. But overall, the volumetric weight is given by the dimensions. So the bigger is your product, the bigger is the box, the higher is your fee, and the heavier is your box, even if the actual weight is like, I don't know, 200 grams or something like that. So keep in mind that when you're shipping something very, very heavy, but very small, you're still gonna pay a lot of money because it's heavy. But same story, if you're shipping something very, very, very big, but then it's very light, you're still gonna pay a lot of money. It doesn't go by actual weight, it goes between whichever is higher. And that's how an express courier charges. Postal service, generally it's only actual weight, but you may find some postal services that charge you whichever is higher with a lower ratio, for example, or something like that. So always ask what's the way of charging, the methodology behind, before you choose. Then of course, you can also consider, for example, the cash on delivery options, or the redelivery, or a specific time to deliver the parcel to your customers, or the possibility of changing the address or returning the parcel, relocating, and so on. All those services are offered mainly by express couriers. Of course, you pay more, so you have more services. Compared to, let's say, a postal service where they try to deliver, if not successful, they will leave the box to the local post office for maybe 5 days, 3 days, and then if nobody goes to pick it up, then they send it back or they destroy it. It really depends on the policy and which service you chose. But sometimes they don't even leave you a notice, so they try to deliver at home, you're not there, they leave it to the post office, they wait 2 to 3 days, and if you pick it up, good. If you don't, it's gonna go back. While with, for example, an express option, they're going to leave you a notice, they're going to call you, they're going to send you an email, try to deliver. So there are multiple services included in the price. Like as I said, the redelivery, a scheduled time, or the fact that if you're not at home, they can call you again, try to schedule a pickup at a specific time. You can claim back, of course, damages or lost parcels. Then another difference is, for example, the proof of delivery. So express options, they do generally require to sign off the paper to have a proof of delivery, basically. Postal services most likely not. But nowadays with the COVID, generally they don't really require the signature. They try not to have any contact, right? So they may sign off for you, and that causes a little bit of, let's say, misunderstandings as well, and problems overall worldwide, because it's the courier that signs off and it gets delivered, but actually maybe you didn't even get the product, right? Or delivered to someone else wrongly. So that caused a lot of issues over the COVID, but seems to be solved right now. But keep in mind that if you want a proof of delivery as well, that the product's actually been delivered, you should also check that before choosing one of the two, express or postal courier. Another example can be that sometimes the tracking shows deliver, and then your customers come back to you and say like, hey, I didn't get my product, but the tracking shows deliver, and you don't have a proof of delivery, right? So what are you going to do in that case? You're going to reship? Are you going to believe your customer? You're not going to believe it? So it's quite tricky, right? At this point, I think you should consider all the different scenarios. Either you go for a proof on delivery, let's say type of courier, or you accept the risk and in case refund your customer or reship to your customer the product in case they claim that they didn't get the product, but it shows deliver on the tracking. Then another difference is that sometimes not all postal services offer DDU and DDP, like duty paid or unpaid. What express option they do, and the documents are also different. For example, an express courier generally requires a commercial invoice, while the postal services generally requires the CN22 or CN23. So it's like a declaration that generally is already on the label. Like when you go to the post office, you fill in that label and that's all. But with express couriers are two different labels or documents. One is a commercial invoice, which is separate from the shipping label that has a tracking number and so on. Then be aware of certain limitations also that express courier can have. It's not all roses and roses and roses everywhere. It's actually they do have some restrictions. For example, they can't deliver to PO boxes, but they can deliver to parcel lockers, but not to all parcel lockers. Now, if you're selling in Middle East, you know that there the PO boxes are quite common, especially in Dubai. So you use an express options, you're not going to deliver any package there, they're going to return it. So PO boxes generally are not supported by express solutions for the same reason that we just discussed. They need the proof of delivery, so they need to see the person to mark it as delivered. So if I leave it to a PO box, then I don't have the proof that someone was at home and could pick up my the parcel that I delivered. Same for APO. For example, they are the military addresses. Express couriers can't enter any, let's say, military address. So you should use a postal courier. However, sometimes not even the postal couriers can deliver there. So make sure if you decide to allow to deliver anywhere, that you actually are aware of which courier can ship to APO or PO boxes or parcel lockers. They're quite common in certain countries, even in the US, like they're very common to have like military addresses. So if you allow them into your Shopify, for example, checkout, make sure you can actually ship there. And otherwise you're gonna ship the product and it's not gonna get delivered, so you lose the sale and you need to refund or reship or have the headache or find another, let's say, solution to actually ship there. And then PO boxes, only postal carriers can deliver there, not express. And parcel lockers, it really depends. Generally postal services not always do that, and express also not always do that, but most of the times it's more common for express options to deliver to parcel lockers than express option. Of course, like for example, Australia has a lot of parcel lockers, it's pretty common there, so Australia Post does deliver to parcel lockers. So if you use, let's say, a postal service and you're shipping to Australia, and the parcel lockers market there is very let's say common and advanced, Australia Post is going to deliver to parcel lockers most likely. So of course it depends on the country as well, so just make sure they use the right courier for the right solutions and for the right addresses. In a few words, there are a lot of pros and cons regarding postal services and express services, but it really depends on what are your requirements. If you don't really mind about having a longer transit times but a very cheap price, then you can definitely go for a postal service. But keep in mind that the faster you are, the easier it is to convert, for example, your customers if you go for an express option. But it's also true that express couriers don't always deliver everywhere, like PO boxes, APO, or remote areas. So they will need to probably hand over to someone locally to deliver. And it's going to be an additional cost, while postal services can actually deliver to remote areas. So there are a lot of differences. Also in terms of price, the difference in price is quite high. So if your product is not so expensive, maybe you want to start with a postal service first and then eventually convert. So it really depends. Many people still ship with postal services or hybrid solutions, so there's nothing bad about it. But of course, keep in mind that today customers require faster transit times and they want the product after a few days, especially now that Amazon offer and became like such a leader, as a marketplace with the delivery and the transit times, that what's the competitive advantage that you have for your customer to buy from your website if they can get it through Amazon from a competitor at a faster transit time. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, remember to subscribe to our channel, leave a like and a comment. See you in the next one!